Do you think the $1,000 to send out a PR newswire press release is worth it anymore?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes and no. Most of the time we really don't do it anymore. Unless it's a major launch, like you're completely rebranding the company, or it's a major product announcement that you really need to get to some of those old timers that are just not hanging out where you need them to be. So I would say most of the time, no, don't waste the money. Okay. But if it's a major big deal, spend the extra $500 and do it. That's.
How many of you routinely send out a press release through PR Newswire or something like that? Okay. Steve, 10,000.
10,000. I'm probably going to be very consistent in my answers if this is the theme of the questions. I would probably save that until I could build it up into a larger marketing budget. I'm not really sure what I would manage to do in a very productive way with $10,000. We had this conversation.
You know we're recording this.
We often say, rather than, it's like saying, if you want to go out and buy a house and you have $10,000, what would you do? You probably rent. You probably save up until you actually could go and buy a house, right? I think the only thing you'll learn at the end of spending $10,000 is that you spent $10,000. And so I reasonably would, figure out. Now, there are a lot of variables. It depends on what product you're trying to sell, who you're trying to sell to, what type of time frame you have in which to sell it. So it's hard to put out a blanket statement that there's always one thing to do with $10,000. But really, if you're trying to use that as a marketing budget, it's not going to get you very far.
But I think many people would disagree. I would. How many would disagree? $10,000 is not a lot of money these days to introduce a product. You agree it's not a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Agree that it's not a lot?
Yeah.
So how many hands for that? See that? Those hands are
on your side. I agree with you.
That it's not enough.
But like Twitter.
Well, how many think it's enough? How's that?
But have you ever seen an ad for Twitter?
Have I ever seen an ad for Twitter?
Yeah, or for Google, or for they didn't do any all-top. They didn't do any marketing.
Okay, but again, those are there's no risk to it. You're not trying to sell anything, right? You're not selling a thing to that customer. Twitter doesn't sell a dime to anyone, right? And they have a naturally viral built-in nature. LinkedIn has not spent. We spent some trade advertising, but to get users out, we have not spent advertising. But our site for the most part is free. If you're trying to sell a car, if you're trying to sell a high consideration CRM application, you won't accomplish much with $10,000.
iPhone and App Stores are doing $2.5 billion. I read yesterday on a very good
Apple,
blog.
But Apple spends a lot of money.
Right, but me as an app developer, I can get there are a few developers who got close to $1 million in revenues without any marketing. Sure. Because their product is great, and yes, the App Store is promoting that, right. But there is no press release and no $10,000 budget for marketing.
Sure.
And they sell you an app, right?
So I'm not saying it can never work, but I'm saying in many cases it won't get you too far. There are outliers, but there would be far more failures if they were really trying to take $10,000 out and build a business off of that.
Okay. Louis, 10 grand.
Look, the best way to help this team is to stop talking about the edge cases. Google is not representative, FriendFeed is not representative, Twitter is not representative. And this panel is going to suck if I hear Twitter 2 more times. Because here's the thing.
You just said it twice.
I did it intentionally. I'm exempt.
It's going to suck.
It's going to suck. So one thing we have to look at is exactly what Renee was talking about. You have to know what you're selling, what your market is. If you've got that niche, you have to know where to be. Because it's not about blasting it out and hoping you hit the right people. It's about finding the right place and being in the right place and doing the right thing. Last night at 3 a.m., the company that I helped consult for put 2 press releases out with IBM because IBM was helping sell their virtual network interface controller. That's not consumer, right? Mm-hmm. And so the way that they could try and get the word out is old school PR. You make the calls, you have the briefings, the journalists write about it, and then people find out about it. In tandem with that, since I get to say Twitter as much as I want during this answer, at 3 a.m. I got to put a whole bunch of stuff on Twitter because what Twitter and all these social media things are is simply infrastructure, right? It is not going to replace PR. It is going to be something that PR does. It is going to be something that lives within marketing and customer service. So $10,000 goes back to the core PR, marketing, advertising that we're already doing. It means if you have $10,000, find out how much it costs to put together a landing page, maybe it's $2,000, have somebody on the team write a white paper about your product, and then pitch it through Google AdWords. And you could be spending anywhere from pennies on the dollar to $2 to $4 per click. And you're going to get 400, 500 qualified people buying your 6-figure product. Now,
You think?
if you're, I've done it.
You're saying
the average
you
sale
buy
price-
a few Google AdWords and you sell $100,000 products?
What you do is you get people who are in the right verticals if you advertise correctly with the correct keywords. It's been done. The last company I worked for, the average sales price of the equipment was $350,000.
And you're telling me they did it with Google AdWords?
We did lots of things with Google AdWords, yeah.
Wow.
And Twitter's free. So that doesn't count.
But do you think there's a place at all for Twitter marketing for a $350,000 product?
Yes, because I've done it. Part of it is just going to
So
where
why are
you're-
you sick of us talking about Twitter if you
Because what you're doing is you're filtering the questions as they come through. And
That's
so what
what
I
I
want to
do.
do is say,
That's what a moderator
we've
does.
got a diversity. So we have a diversity of people
called anarchy.
trying to sell lots of different things. So what we want to do is provide answers that are going to help more people in the room than the select few who are selling consumer products. that
Okay,
have
so
no
how many of
products.
you are selling $350,000 products? Oops. All right.
Those guys are going to make some money.
Can I just add one thing that is related to our industry where traditional did turn things around? I was just in London this past week, and I'm not sure if you've heard of a company called Moshi Monsters. It's a very, very small company, and we met with them, and they've been doing viral stuff through Twitter and using social media tools. That's all they had because they're a very small startup. And things were really taking off for them. But then they got an opportunity to do an old-fashioned TV ad, and things went through the roof. The company is, now it's totally went through the roof. So there's an example where, yes, viral was working for them, but then once they inserted, traditional TV ads, it totally exploded for them. So we can't. That's London.
But that's not $10,000.
Say more than 10K.
No.
How much does it
Actually,
cost
it cost them $6,000. I heard.
to make a TV ad?
Apparently.
Did they have to buy the time? Is that the production or the time?
I don't know. It kind of gave me that look like, well, I'm not sure, but it was pretty inexpensive, I think. I think it was a test that they were allowed to do, but it actually really worked. I think what I'm trying to say is it was effective for them. Because they were after a mainstream audience, right? This is, a social network for kids, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay. Renee, I'll start this question with you. So a lot of, in particular, what Loic is saying about being honest and transparent and, answering your own questions and all this kind of good stuff. In this world, and I see it happen over and over again, big, dumb, rich companies say, oh, we got to get into social marketing. We don't know how to do it, so we need to hire an agency. All right? So tell me that. I mean, what should a big, dumb, rich company hire an agency, hire interns? How do you work with an agency? Or should you just gut it out and do it yourself? I mean, what's the role of an agency in being honest, transparent, and a good marketing person?
for a large organization.
For an existing organization, not two guys in a garage or two gals in a garage with no budget, but
Well, since this is what I do, I think there's huge value in it.